Events at Easter Road this evening, complete with VAR. Our commentary team are Rory Loy, Michael Stewart and Alistair Lance.
Thanks very much, Jane. Welcome to Easter Road on a mild late October evening in the capital. Close to capacity crowd for a landmark fixture in Scottish football, the advent of the video assistant referee system. Plenty of debate over its pros and cons already, no doubt more to come starting this evening. Both sides tonight looking to end losing streaks. Hibs of 2 games, St Johnstone of 3. It was a tough 90 minutes for Lee Johnson's side on Saturday at Celtic Park, but they still sit in 3rd place in the Premiership with a chance to stretch the advantage over Aberdeen and St Mirren this evening. Saints haven't beaten Hibs since the Scottish Cup final of 2021, losing 4 of the 5 meetings since. A statistic Callum Davison will be desperate to improve upon over the course of this evening. The sides are just about ready to get us underway. Hibs in their traditional green and white outfit. David Marshall, the captain, in his luminous yellow, heads back to his goal. St Johnstone in their blue tops, white shorts and socks, and Remy Matthews all in red. Hibs will go from left to right as we look at it from the back of the main stand, and Kevin Clancy, the match referee, places the ball on the centre spot. It will be St Johnstone to get us underway. Willie Collum is the first ever video assistant referee in Scottish football. He is back at VAR base. Kevin Clancy will be in contact with him if necessary over the course of the 90 minutes. It's a really good atmosphere down in Leith, and the home fans have really come out and backed their team strongly, and a good visiting support from St Johnstone as well. Saints do get us underway, and it's immediately launched long by Andrew Considine from left to right, and out of play for a throw-in on the far side as Hibs look to try and take command of the early stages, having suffered that horrible reverse at Celtic Park. Porteous playing on the right of the back 3 for Hibs, launches it long. It's a head knock already, and it's Considine who's caught Kuharevich, I think, and the Hibs striker down holding his head. Will be a free kick, I think, to Hibs, and Kuharevich just sitting back up now, and Kevin Clancy wants a word with Andrew Considine over the challenge. Michael, anything in that for you?
No, not really. Just looked like a coming together of the striker in the centre half. Kevin Clancy, fair enough, just having a quiet word, but get on with things.
Free kick to Hibs then, 15 yards inside the St Johnstone half, clipped forward by Newell for Boyles. A chance early on, and it's saved by the leg of Remy Matthews as Kuharevich tried to tuck it home from a tight angle at the edge of the 6-yard box, but a clear opening there for Hibernian in the opening couple of minutes. Rory Loy.
Yeah, Mark Helberg switches off massively. I mean, his job is quite clearly to mark Martin Boyle. The way they had shaped up to take the free kick, it was relatively obvious where it was going. Mistake from Helberg. Here comes Cadden. Kuharevich for another opportunity, saved again by Remy Matthews as Hibs threatening the early stages, but still 0-0.
And you were talking about, early on we were talking about the crowd. You can hear it's a bright start for Hibs, and they're getting right behind the home side, which is to be expected. Very, very bright on the front foot, getting forward early and quickly, and putting St Johnstone under some real pressure.
Good goalkeeping, you'd have to say, Rory, by Remy Matthews on both occasions.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was straight at him the second one. You'd expect him to save it, but what he does well is he gets it away from his goal, which was big. I think Hibs, looking at the first couple of minutes, it's difficult when the game's not settled down, but Andy Considine playing left of the 3 at the back, probably looking to pull him into wider areas if possible and try and expose him there.
Kuharevich, who's had a bright start, picks up possession on the right channel for Hibernian, has to turn back though. Back to Porteous it goes on the halfway line, square for Bashiri, who's in the centre of that back 3 with Hanlon on the left, and then plays it back to Porteous and all the way back to David Marshall. Bashiri will start again, but a promising opening for the home side, and you can hear the home fans getting behind their team as a result of that. Played up to Kuharevich, he goes to ground. He's got a free kick from Kevin Clancy. I thought he took a poor touch there and just went to ground looking for a free kick, and he's got it. Liam Gordon adjudged to have fouled his man. Newell takes the free kick quickly in the middle of the park out to Hanlon on the far side, and now it's Chevraya. It's infield to Kyle McGuinness, who's actually making his first start in over a year since he went off injured against St Johnstone.
It's great to see him back, Al, I must say. As a player I played with at St Mirren as he was breaking through, fantastic talent, showed good strength. He looks like he's built up and bulked up a lot during his time out as well.
Back with Marshall after Conor McLennan, who's also making his first start of the season for St Johnstone. He lost out, and now it's Cadden, plays it forward, looking for Boyle, but in nipped Considine. Clark trying to link there with Dre Wright, who's playing in a more advanced role than we've seen him for the most part this season, but it is a kind of forward role in off the right that he played for most of his career, certainly when he was at Hibs, but he's been playing right wing back much of this season. James Brown's gone across to play that position for St Johnstone tonight, with Adam Montgomery coming in at left wing back. Here's Boyle, gets it to Campbell and then to Cadden, played forward by Campbell. There was a foul there on Cadden as he released it, though, right on the touchline in front of Lee Johnson's technical area. It's been a bright start from the home side.
Yeah, that was good, bright play as well. Quick, one-touch football, popping it around, playing 1-2s.
Cadden into the penalty area, but straight into the arms of Remy Matthews before Kuharevich can get there. Still goalless, 4.5 minutes in.
Chris Cadden's somebody who, that in combination with Martin Boyle down that right, Boyle will drift into those areas, they can cause problems for the opposition. Boyle obviously very, very direct, but Chris Cadden's delivery when he gets into it, he wasn't even that far up the park there, and his ball in behind the defence wasn't a million miles away from Kuharevich. And you see, once he gets in those areas, for a striker, he's a dream, because his delivery is very, very good.
Here's Bashiri coming forward up towards the halfway line, has to check and plays it out to the right. Porteous has to scurry to play that off McLennan, and it will be a Hibs throw in right hand side as they come forward about 15 yards inside their own half. Porteous looking for options. It's over the head of Newell for Campbell.
Rory was making a good point early on about St Johnstone being stuffy. They can be difficult to break down, and it's important that Hibs have started brightly, because you think back to the victory that St Johnstone got a few weeks ago at Tannadice, and they suffocated Dundee United. They neutered any hope and threat that they had, and ultimately they were able to win the game, and that's exactly what I would imagine they'll be looking to do here at Easter Road as well.
Matthews almost caught Considine off guard with the short goal kick. He was able to recover before Boyle could close him down. Hibs do have it back though, and it's Cadden in field for Newell coming forward, tries to slip it through for Cadden once more, but Considine was alive to that danger and knocks it out of play. 6 minutes in, goalless between Hibernian and St Johnstone.
Yeah, Adam Montgomery on the left hand side here, he's playing as a wing back. He needs to get the balance right between going up the pitch and working back the way as well. He's struggling a little bit on the defensive side, he needs to adapt quickly.
Newell lining up the long throw from the right hand side for Hibs, about 15 yards from the corner flag on the Hibs right into the penalty area. It comes, up goes Liam Gordon, heads it down, comes back to Newell, low ball in, comes off McGuinness and back to Newell once more on the right hand side, closed down by McLennan, trying to get away from him. Newell just managing to keep the ball in play under severe pressure. It's done well, Newell. Gets it back to Campbell, and Newell once more, crossing opportunity. It's not a good one from him. Comes out though to McGuinness.
He did very well, because he was under serious pressure there from McLennan, and he held him off. Got to say, his long throw was pretty impressive as well.
Here's Cadden, almost at the goal line, right hand side, good ball into the box. Ooh. Comes off Considine, down goes a Hibs player, and Kevin Clancy's going to show Martin Boyle a yellow card under pressure. He hits the deck, and the referee wasted no time in awarding the free kick to St Johnstone inside their own penalty area, with Martin Boyle claiming it was a touch.
Well, he's not claiming very strongly, is he? I think you can see from the reaction that he's not complaining strongly, but it's obviously going to be getting looked at, I would imagine.
Yeah, the distance Kevin Clancy was away, plus the fact that Martin Boyle was pretty confident.
That was a quick VAR check. The Hibs fans got excited just for a moment, and the game has resumed, and their cheers turned to boos as Kevin Clancy and Willie Collum have the first notable VAR check in Scottish football, and it's ended up in
the player's reaction tells it all for me.
Yeah,
Alistair.
And we spoke before the game about player behaviour. That's hopefully the type of thing that will be eradicated, because he obviously has simulation there, diving, so that's hopefully the type of thing that will be eradicated over time, that the players will just stop doing, hopefully.
St Johnstone throwing over on the far side as they try to put an attack together. Brown heads into the penalty area. Newell away, Dre Wright back out to Ryan McGowan, former Hearts man, scored against Hibs in that 5-1 Scottish Cup final victory.
That's good play from Hibs, really good play.
Playing out from the back, cool and composed, and it's McGuinness up to the halfway line for Campbell. Boyle's trying to hold his run. I'm not sure he'd managed it, and the pass goes square instead to Porteous. Might have been wise. Here's Cadden, cuts it back this time for Boyle. Couldn't take the shot on first time. Might get it away yet, and it's a nick off Considine, is it? Oh, maybe not.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
goal kick.
Talking about Joe Newell and how, Michael touching on how well he did in the corner just not so long ago. They get beat 6-1, but if anyone came away with any sort of pass marks last Saturday, then probably Joe Newell. He showed a lot of composure when his teammates couldn't. But again, I go back to Adam Montgomery on the left-hand side. The penalty incident, or the shout for the penalty, came from a ball over his head, and it's been exposed again there. Like I said, he needs to maybe just take a step back a little when Hibs are attacking.
The difficulty he's got, Rory, is the fact that it's that combination between Cadden and Martin Boyle. Martin Boyle's playing like a striker, but he drifts into those wide areas, and Cadden is directly up against them. He's got to overload at times, and that's where Considine's got, in conjunction, the two of them have got to get their distances right, otherwise Hibs will continue to punish them down that side.
Yeah, you can see Considine's talking to him just now, telling him next to a very experienced player, so if he's got a chance of understanding where he needs to be, then it's next to Andy Considine. 10
minutes played, Hibernian nil, St Johnstone nil. Is a talking to there for former Hibs man Melker Hallberg for a challenge on Rocky Bashiri, but no yellow card as Cadden picks up for Hibs. A slack ball back to Ryan Porteous, forces the centre back to have to jog back towards his own goal. Porteous just lets Cadden know about that before the pass is played out from Marshall to Hanlon. Hanlon struggling to keep it in fact he hasn't managed it. Just a bit of slackness a couple of times there from Hibs, which just rather takes away from the bright opening they've had. You don't want that to begin to creep in to your play, having started the game well. St Johnstone looking to just grow into the game as it's out on that far side with Mitchell. Forward it goes to Wright, and now McGowan back to Liam Gordon just inside his own half. Plays it square for Considine. Boyle will come and close him down 10 yards inside St Johnstone territory. McLennan back to Gordon up at the halfway line. It's a terrible ball from Gordon, looking to find McLennan again, straight out of play. Hibs throw in. Porteous looking to get moving quickly, tries to find Boyle down the line. Considine is able to win that one though. McLennan, former Aberdeen teammate of Considine, takes possession and then plays it to Mitchell. Over on the far side is Brown, back with Mitchell once more. Now McGowan clips it forward down the right hand side for Dre Wright, up against Chabraya, tries to back heel. James Brown can't latch onto it though, and Hanlon knocks it back to his goalkeeper David Marshall. 11.5 played here at Easter Road, still no goals.
You've got to say it's been a good reaction so far from Hibs. You're talking about having a few choice words from the manager. How are they going to react? Hibs have played this opening stage pretty well. They've been bright, they've been quick in their play, their interchange. Yeah, it's been a good performance so far from Hibs.
They are moving the ball pretty briskly, aren't they? There's Newell out to Chabraya and into the feet of Kurevich. He holds the ball up and then plays it back to Porteous on the halfway line. Now Boyle offers himself right hand side. He and Cadden are interchanging on this right flank quite readily. Boyle slips the pass back to Hanlon and then out to the left hand side. Back to Boyle it comes, about 20 yards from goal, looking for Chabraya, but across goes Mitchell, knocks it out of play down near the corner flag. Hibs throw it in the left hand side.
Yeah, Callum Davidson's very animated on the touchline there. They've changed from the kind of the 3-5-2 to the 3-4-2-1, and I think they're trying to get Dre Wright and Conor McLennan up to stop Hibs playing out from the back, but Wright and McLennan are really struggling to get anywhere near the Hibs players when they're propping it around, and I think it's causing a little bit of frustration. Maybe he feels they could work a little bit harder possibly.
Hibs interchange is very good. I've been impressed with their movement off the ball. constant. I mean, look at this. One-touch football getting at the final third.
From Chabraya for Boyle. Kuharevich. Boyle wants it back. Kuharevich gets onto the left foot and fires over the crossbar. Boyle wanted the return pass. Kuharevich thought he could go on his own. And if he'd got the shot away on his right foot first time, maybe he'd have been better off. But the ball's blazed over the crossbar in the end, and it remains Hibernian 0, St Johnstone 0, 13 minutes in.
I don't think so much that it's the wrong decision from him. He's just not executed it well enough. I'm not 100% convinced he was going to be able to get the angle to slide it through for Martin Boyle, and I think his right foot shot was probably going to get blocked by the defender. I think he did it really well. It was nice footwork, shifted it onto his left. It was all set there to get the left foot strike off. He just didn't get the strike away on target.
Yeah, he's trying to feel it into the far corner with his instep there. Good chop inside, but like you say, Michael couldn't quite execute it.
Free kick to St Johnstone, more or less in the halfway line. They tried to take a quick one, but it was way off where the incident took place. Kevin Clancy pulls it back. 14 minutes played, no goals, but Hibs definitely with the better of the opportunities.
It is, and look, considering this is obviously a change in system to a certain extent. They played a little bit of this obviously at Celtic Park, but it's not the system they've been playing predominantly the last few weeks. I think they've looked very comfortable. The players look like they understand exactly where they're meant to be. The combination play, the interchange, it's been impressive from Hibs so far.
It has. Here's Kuharevich, who's looked bright, goes down looking for the free kick with a challenge on McGowan, who in turn goes down for a subsequent challenge by Newell. That one is penalised by Kevin Clancy. It will be a St Johnstone free kick just about 10 yards inside their own half.
Yeah, he gets that one right, Kevin Clancy. For me, the initial one's never been a foul for me, and the second one is a clear foul, so good officiating.
To be taken by Considine, veteran defender. St Johnstone haven't really offered an attacking threat as yet, as the first quarter of an hour comes and goes. Just the one VAR check so far, which went in Kevin Clancy's favour, if you like. His initial decision to book Martin Boyle for diving and award the free kick to St Johnstone inside their own penalty area was deemed to be correct by Willie Collum in the VAR control room.
Going to have to try and pass through the thirds. Johnstone, you look at the back three of Hibs, Porteous, Bashiri and Hanlon, they're big lads, and with Nicky Clark sandwiched in between the two of them, that lump up the pitch just simply isn't going to work.
McGuinness powering forward, but the move breaks down and Kuharevich dives in on McGowan, and Kevin Clancy wants a word with him for this one. The big striker just overzealous, I think, to be kind to him there with the challenge. Ticking off will do for Kevin Clancy, and then Melker Hallberg will leave the free kick to be taken by Considine once more, about 15 yards inside St Johnstone's half forwards for McLennan. Back with Considine, halfway line, left hand side for St Johnstone, clips it over the top. It's pretty aimless, really, asking an awful lot of McLennan. Never any chance really he was going to get onto the end of that, and easy for David Marshall to come to the edge of his box and collect and roll it out for Newell, who finds Cadden, who's fouled by Montgomery, and it will be a Hibernian free kick. A little bit bitty the game just at the moment, a lot of stop-start fouls and so on, as Porteous looks to try and take a quicker free kick, but McLennan blocked him. Back it goes to Marshall instead. 16 and a half on the clock. Hibs 0, St Johnstone 0 in this Friday night Premiership match. Marshall taking a bit of a chance with the square free kick to Hanlon. Dre Wright was only a couple of yards away from perhaps intercepting. Got away with it though, as Campbell knocks it back to Bashiri midway inside his own half. Dreadlock centre back plays it to Porteous, clips it forward looking for McGuinness. He's beaten in the jump though by Liam Gordon, nods it down to McGowan. Out to Brown on the far side, St Johnstone right, 10 yards inside his own half. Goes back the way to Mitchell, who got that injury time equaliser against Hibs, against Celtic just a couple of weeks ago. Was sure he'd earned his side a point, only to see Yorgos Giacomakis break St Johnstone Hearts even deeper into injury time and grab the winner. Hibs have it again, back deep in their own territory. It's Bashiri collecting from Marshall, plays it square to Porteous, closed down by McLennan. A bit of the zip has gone out of Hibs in the last couple of minutes. I just want to try and recapture that because they did start brightly. Here's Bashiri back out to Porteous, right hand side.
they've been able to shut down the passing angles for Hibs a little bit better, St Johnstone. You know, it's the last 3 occasions the ball's gone out to Ryan Porteous and he's actually had to play the ball backwards. Up until that point, everything he's had is out his feet and he's zipped it forward.
Here's Cadden, bit of room on the right hand side, midway inside the St Johnstone half now, plays it to Boyle. Well challenged though by McGowan, and it came off Boyle last, and it'll be a St Johnstone throw-in.
Yeah, just taking a little bit of time to settle into the game. St Johnstone have not looked an attacking threat, but possibly would have been difficult for Callum Davison to do his prep this week, given that Hibs could have played one of 3 or 4 shapes, but they've got used to it now, the 3-5-2 with Hibs, and they've grown into the game ever so slightly.
It's interesting you were saying, Mikey, that St Johnstone look a lot better this season. I mean, I think there's definitely a perception of that, but they are on the same points as they were at the same stage last season, and only a point of the bottom 3. Callum Davison will be keen to put more points on the board as soon as possible.
Yeah, but the thing for me is that they look like a bit more of the St Johnstone of old in regards to.
I know what you mean, absolutely.
They don't look like they capitulated and disappeared last season. They didn't really have an identity, whereas this season I think you can see where they could hurt teams. I think you can see that they've got some more experience in leaders in the back line now, so there's a bit more of a familiarity about what they can do, whereas last season that wasn't there.
Newell's long throw in again, it's headed clear. Josh Campbell picks up and knocks it back to Chabraya, who's on his own inside the centre circle. He couldn't take any chances there against Nicky Clark, and he goes back the way to Marshall before Clark could properly close him down. Chabraya gets it back from Marshall, arrows the diagonal back into the edge of the penalty area, headed away and then returned by McGuinness. Montgomery will clear again for St Johnstone, but it'll be picked up by Cadden, who again goes all the way back to David Marshall with no obvious options open to him. Almost 20 minutes played and it's still goalless at Easter Road. Hibs started well, had a couple of good early opportunities saved by Matthews, both from Kuharevich, and then Kuharevich also had another effort over the crossbar from just inside the penalty area. Hibs certainly dominating possession, but unable to turn it into goals as yet. Boyle tries to squeeze the ball forward down the left flank. That's cut out and picked up by Dre Wright on the halfway line, right hand side for St Johnstone. Trying to get away from 2 or 3 Hibs players, being hounded there, and St Johnstone have to go back to Matthews, who plays it first time out to Considine, who brings the ball forward up onto the halfway line. Again, it's poor use of the ball out from the back, looking for McLennan. Hibs comfortably win it back, and McGuinness turns it back to David Marshall. St Johnstone, as you're saying, Rory, they're really not been able to build through the thirds at all.
No, they've not. They've got to grips with Hibs in a defensive sense, but they need to try and pass through the thirds with the front 3 they've got, in my opinion, or the 2 supporting Nicky Clark. From a Hibs point of view, there's been a couple of instances. I think Kyle McGuinness, just a couple of phases of play ago, can chest it down, relax play and play it out wide. He opts to head it and give the ball away. That's a slight difference between the first 10 minutes and the second 20 minutes.
Here's Campbell going down the left, ball into the penalty area, cut out by Mitchell well, and Halberg picks up still inside his own penalty area. I have to say, I like Mitchell as a player I've liked the look of since he's come in on loan from Millwall this season. As Bashiri goes right through the back there of Nicky Clark, very clumsy and needless, you would have to say, from the Hibs centre back. It'll be a free kick to St Johnstone right on the halfway line. 21.5 minutes played. Hibs 0, St Johnstone 0.
That's exactly what it is. On occasions, defenders, there has to be an understanding, a recognition that you can't win the ball. That ball's dropping around about Nicky Clark's chest, and Rocky Bashiri's trying to head it. You just can't get it. Allow the striker to take the ball in. You can still physically affect the game. Clarkson at the back of him, it was always going to be given as a free kick.
Yeah, and it just gives St Johnstone the chance to throw a few bodies forward. Alex Mitchell, Liam Gordon and Andrew Considine have all gone forwards.
You're talking about playing the ball through the thirds. Just before Andrew Considine steps forward, he didn't have a difficult pass. It was an easy pass he had on to slide it into Conor McLennan, and he missed it. It was only like a 10-yard ball.
Here is McLennan, left hand side of the penalty area, looking for room for the shot. He just drags the shot. He's claiming he was fouled as he was shooting there by Campbell. Kevin Clancy was in a good position to judge that and decides no, there was nothing wrong with it. It will be a Hibs goal kick, but the first effort anywhere near the Hibs goal from St Johnstone corner, McLennan dragging it well wide of David Marshall's right hand post. 0-0 as Porteous goes down and gets the decision from the referee Callum Davison and Conor McLennan both equally aggrieved by that decision by the referee. There will be a free kick to Hibernian, midway inside their own half, taken by Porteous. Rather slices it down the right hand side, and it's gone straight out of play much further up the park as Considine prepares to take the throw in himself, just about in line with the 18-yard box of St Johnstone. Left hand side, down the line it goes. McGowan tries to get the flick on. McGuinness was close to him. Cadden picks up. Kuharevich can't bring it under control, and Dre Wright will try and stretch the legs and knocks it out to the right hand side as James Brown arrives in support for Wright once more. Angle of the box on the right hand side, into the penalty area it comes. Bashiri gets his right toe to it and headed away further by Chabraya, and then picked up by Newell. Good defending by Hibernian. It looked promising just for a moment for St Johnstone there, for more or less the first time in the game, and then it's knocked forward by Hibernian, but Matthews able to gather and bowl it out. But yeah, just a bit of an opening there for St Johnstone at least. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, they've got to grips defensively, and that then gives them the base to go and build an attack. When David Marshall has a free kick, their front three are literally going man for man with Hibbs's back three. They're pushing their wing backs up, St Johnstone. Good pressing really well. Yeah, good play from Montgomery. Finds McLennan on the left hand side. Chance to cross, right footed, flicked on by Nicky Clark before Bashiri could get there, but headed away in the end. But St Johnstone pick up, and they're definitely coming more into the game. It's McLennan on the left once more. He's got Montgomery on the overlap. He's onside at the goal line, drives it across goal into the arms of David Marshall only.
That was really, really poor defending. Ryan Porteous and Chris Catwell. Porteous having a go at Cadden there.
Here come Hibs at the other end. Boyle driving forward, slips it for Kuharevich. Can he get the shot away? It's a really good challenge coming in from Mitchell. Out to the right hand side it comes for Campbell. Still Mitchell up against him. Campbell tries to get it into the area. The defender stands up to that though, and then St Johnstone get their lines cleared up to the halfway line at least.
Great defending from Mitchell. He tracked the run with Kuharevich all the way. You could see he was not going to get the strike away. It's just determined defending. And you know, for St Johnstone, absolutely they've been able to work their way into the game now. Hibs have become a little bit, it's not sloppy, but the same zip's not been in their play when they're in possession. Not as accurate in their passing, they've not got the same fluency, and that is in part due to St Johnstone coming into the game a little bit, but also they've just forced it a wee bit more. That last attack when the ball was into Joe Newell in the middle of the park, he could have slipped it 10 yards further forward to Kuharevich and continued the attack. He's trying to put it over the top really quickly, and it's just giving away the possession.
Halbert picks up, tries to switch the play, looking for Dre Wright. He's lost out to Hanlon, and then picked up by Chabraya. Now it's McGuinness. Oh, it's a lovely turn away from McGowan, leaves him in his wake. Forward comes McGuinness, central area, midway inside the St Johnstone half, plays it short to Campbell, and out to Cadden now in the right angle of the box, sends a ball in, just a little bit close to the goalkeeper I think. No chance for Kuharevich or any of his Hibs teammates to get on the end of that one from Cadden. Normally, as you say, Mikey, very good with delivery, didn't really give his teammates an opportunity to get on the end of that one.
Well, do you know what, the delivery is actually not bad, but as you say, I think there had to be an element of recognition from him that there was no player that was going to actually get on the end of it, because they were all just a couple of yards deeper than the defence. He put it into a dangerous area had there been a striker that was on the shoulder of the last defender, but there just simply wasn't.
Still 0-0 then, 27 minutes on the clock. Bashiri wins the aerial battle against Nicky Clark. Josh McGuinness, as you were saying, sorry, not Josh McGuinness, Kyle McGuinness. I've probably been calling him that all night, have I? Kyle McGuinness, he looks like he is, you know, really making a difference to this Hibs team, as you say, Rory, back to full fitness.
Do we have VAR of commentators as well?
Yeah, what he did well there was he scanned before he received the ball. He knew exactly where Hallberg was. He went to press him, and as they say in this day and age, he beat the press of Hallberg and spun, and was acres of space, looking maybe for a little bit more movement from the players in front of him.
That's misjudged by Brown. Hibs come forward. Kuharevich just unable to link there with Hanlon, who'd powered forward down the left hand side. Now it's Cadden right hand side for Hibernian, about 25 yards from goal. Cadden once more back to Porteous. Just a little bit more laboured from Hibs. It's Josh Campbell. It's Josh Campbell making me call Kyle McGuinness Josh McGuinness there. That's my excuse.
Didn't he go blaming anybody else?
Here's Boyle. right angle of the penalty area. Squeezes in between a couple of St Johnstone players, but eventually runs into traffic, cleared out for a Hibs throw-in.
I thought for a second there he was going to hit the deck, and I think he thought twice about it given what happened earlier. Martin Boyle was so sharp with the ball at his feet though.
Yep, already on a yellow card for the dive earlier on as Newell fouls Clark. St Johnstone still have possession and play continues. I'm not sure they really got much of an advantage from it, to be quite honest, but Hibs get the throw in eventually, and forward they come. It's Kurevich losing out to McGowan, and eventually Kevin Clancy reckons McGowan was being fouled. St Johnstone free kick midway inside their own half. Bit of a stalemate at the moment, 28.5 minutes on the clock. Hibs 0, St Johnstone 0.
And St Johnstone will be happy now. You know, they've been able to slow down the attacks from Hibs. They've grown in confidence, and as I spoke about already, the game at Tannadice a few weeks ago, the last win that St Johnstone were able to get, they nullified any threat that Dundee United had. Granted, they were very short in confidence, Dundee United, but they were a solid base, which is what they've started to get in this game here. Nullified any threat that Dundee United had, and they really punished Dundee United that day. And you can't write St Johnstone off, and it goes back to what I was saying before about, you know, they might be in a similar points tally as to what they were last year, but this is a team that's got a lot more substance to it for me.
St Johnstone coming forward down the right hand side. It looked like a heavy challenge there, but the referee reckoned it was okay, and Hibs win the ball back, and then Hanlon thumps it forward. That was misjudged by Liam Gordon, came off the top of his head, but Constantine was there to knock it back to Remy Matthews. Half an hour played at Easter Road. Decent enough game, but no goals yet, as it's gone long for St Johnstone and picked up in the middle of the park by Wright. Again, it's a poor pass, this time from Melker Hallberg, looking for McLennan, just overhit, straight out of play. And again, not an especially difficult pass to execute, was it?
No, that's basic stuff. I'm not quite sure. It's happened a couple of times in the middle of the pitch, trying to play it out wide for St Johnstone. What's causing that issue, I'm not quite sure. Lapse in concentration, but from a defensive standpoint, I was quite critical of Montgomery to start with. He's fixed the problems, and St Johnstone are now plugging the gaps really, really well. They've taken responsibility of the players on the pitch and managed to fix it in game.
It's a foul by Kuharevich, and it's going to be a yellow card, and Kevin Clancy making the multiple fouls motion to the striker to just make it clear exactly why he's been booked. Caught McGowan late there, certainly, and don't think he can have too many complaints about that one.
And it's multiple occasions where he's just taking a heavy touch. You know, he's dangling a leg trying to win the ball back after just losing possession. He should have done better there. Balls are getting fizzed into him, granted, but you know, he's a big strong lad. Sometimes strikers just need to stop moving, stand still, take the ball in. Looks like he's constantly trying to move towards the ball.
I think in fairness in that one, Porteous played the ball pretty straight, and he had to come back and try and get it. The free kick's played into the St Johnstone penalty area, and it's well defended again by Hibs. St Johnstone unable to make anything of the set piece situation.
So if Kucherevich goes on to get sent off for the second yellow, Michael, are we going to look at the first yellow as well, and all the little fouls?
Don't wind him up, Rory. You know he's bad enough without that.
Why?
My goodness.
Why?
Here's Bashiri. Just forget he said anything there. Here's Porteous. Forward down the right hand side, but too much in that pass as well. And out for a goal kick to St Johnstone.
That's a good point though, Alistair. You don't think?
Which one? The second yellow one?
Yes.
It's worth debating, yes, and maybe in time these kind of things will be looked at. But well, for the moment,
I wouldn't hold your breath, because you can't appeal a second yellow card either, and I think it's a nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's not the only thing you have issues with, is it? Let's be honest. So, St Johnstone have a free kick midway inside their own half. I was talking about in a football sense there, not generally.
Not your top knot.
Let's get back to the football, shall we? St Johnstone have it right hand side. Played forward by Mitchell. Bashiri read it though. Nicky Clark's not had a lot of joy in the forward areas for St Johnstone so far. Bashiri again. intercepts the through ball.
Well, that for me there, Dre Wright's got to be in front of Bushiri. He's got to give him an option. You can't stand behind him. That's the only pass he's got on. He needs to be on the move and get in front of Bushiri to give his teammate an option and take the ball in.
Considine's run into trouble. It's Cadden who picks up possession away from McGowan. Swivels and then passes it to McGuinness. Edge of the penalty. It goes for goal. Dipping efforts too high though. Good play from Cadden to set him up. McGuinness, slightly ambitious shot perhaps. A couple of yards over the top of the crossbar. Hibs 0, St Johnstone 0.
Yeah, it was good play. Hibs just latching on to Andrew Considine there. Could tell that he was under a bit of pressure. I just felt when Cadden was driving in field, he had a pass there to Josh Campbell, and I thought he could have just slipped in front of him to continue the move. Instead he turned, and eventually, yes, he plays the ball to Kyle McGuinness, but I felt as if he could have played that pass a little bit quicker to Josh Campbell and kept the attack going.
Hibs have it at the back. Porteous for Cadden. Comes forward up to the halfway line. Options out to the left hand side. Chabraya. Hanlon goes out on the overlap, but infield it goes to Campbell and then to Hanlon. Left hand side, plays it forward for Chabraya again, 10 yards from the goalie. That's too close to Remy Matthews once more with a cross from Chabraya. And St Johnstone try and mount quick counter attack. It's McLennan. Good play though from Cadden, biting back at him. McLennan thought he was being fouled. The referee having none of it. Cadden finds Boyle 25 yards from goal outside the penalty area to the right hand side. Porteous back to Cadden, clips it into the penalty area. Not a bad ball, but Liam Gordon's there first. Out to Newell it comes, and now Cadden once more, another chance to send it in to the box. The header comes in, goal! Kuharevich on the end of a delightful Cadden cross, and he climbed highest above Liam Gordon to direct the ball way beyond Remy Matthews. Hibernian 1, St Johnstone 0.
Well, Chris Cadden had thrown a ball into the box about 10 seconds before, and it was very easily defended and headed away by St Johnstone. On that occasion, it's a pretty similar ball into the box, and I've got to be honest, I think Liam Gordon's got to do better. Kuharevich eventually just gets above him and angles it into the corner. Remy Matthews has no chance. But it wasn't as if it was a cross that had loads of pace on it. It wasn't really flat. It wasn't like the striker got in front of the defender. He just got above him. The defender's static. I mean, he puts it in an area, and as I said before, Cadden's delivery is generally pretty good. It's not a bad ball. I'm just expecting the defender to do a bit better.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. However, once Kuharevich does get above him, as Michael says, there's not a lot of pace in the ball to generate the neck muscles to then head it, catches it so sweet in the forehead, directs it right into the corner. From a defender's point of view, not a great goal to concede. From a striker's point of view, with that ball into the box, great leap. Like I said,
it's
neck muscles. It's a great header into the corner. Keeper no chance.
Now, of course, we know that every goal is checked under VAR, so that is ongoing at the moment. So play won't be restarted until VAR are happy with it. Kevin Clancy, the referee here, with his hand to his ear and just the arm outstretched, just allowing everyone to know that the check is ongoing. This will become just par for the course under VAR. People will get used to it. Every goal will be checked. There's nothing necessarily untoward. Kevin Clancy is happy because Willie Collum in the VAR base is happy. Hibs have the advantage, and Mikola Kuharevich, the Ukrainian 21-year-old, has his first Hibernian goal, and it's put his side in front here, and you have to say on the balance of play, Michael, it pretty much deserved.
Yeah, although as we've already been talking about, St Johnstone were in a period of the game where they were looking more and more comfortable, but I think you're right that over the piece so far, Hibs have been the more threatening side. And a disappointing goal though. Callum Davidson will not be happy with that. I think as a defensive unit, they've got to do better. The ball's thrown at the box pretty easily. It was the second one in a short space of time, and they're expecting Liam Gordon's going to be physically a bit more imposing as well. He just misjudges the flight, I think.
Yeah, but as you guys have both said, it was a really good header once it actually reached the forehead of the striker. Here's Dre Wright to St Johnstone. try and respond. Looked like he was fouled there, but Adam Montgomery
that's
picks
a
up.
bugbear of mine now. The advantage rule. Referees think just because you've got the ball, it's an advantage.
Yeah.
If it's more of an advantage where the free kick should have taken place, and it should be a foul.
Yeah, especially as Hibs have now knocked it out for a throw-in to St Johnstone rather than a free kick just outside the penalty area, which would have been far more dangerous, you would imagine, although Considine's got a good long throw on him here.
Yeah, but all you need to do is just wait a couple of seconds and you can see that Montgomery is, he's running a cul-de-sac. So just pull it back for the free kick.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless he decided it wasn't a free kick or it wasn't a foul in the first place, which is also a possibility. Here's Considine with the long throw in into the edge of the 6-yard box, flicked on. Hibs can't get rid of it. Can St Johnstone turn it goalwards? Knows the initial answer. McLaren stumbles inside the penalty area. He claims he was fouled there as well. Chabraya picks up possession. Nothing given by the officials here as Hibs continue in possession. It's Campbell back to his goalkeeper. Marshall plays it out to the left-hand side for Hanlon. Left-hand side of the penalty, clips it forward up towards the goal scorer Kuharevich. He's beaten to it by Considine. Now McGowan picks up for St Johnstone. Mitchell for Gordon, back to his goalkeeper Remy Matthews as Boyle closes him down, gets the clearance way over the halfway line. Porteous wins the header above McLennan, then plays it out to the right-hand side to Cadden, who provided that delicious ball for Kuharevich's goal. Down the right come Hibernian once more. Cadden giving chase. Across comes Liam Gordon, knocks it out of play for the throw into Hibs, more or less in line with the 18-yard box. Cadden will just leave it to Joe Newell. 6 minutes from the interval. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0. Mikola Kuharevich with his first goal for the club since joining on loan from Troyes. Porteous into the penalty area, headed away by McGowan, picked up by Chabraya, knocked forward to Newell, who gets out to the right hand side for Cadden, who will sweep it into the penalty area again. This time Gordon is first to it, heads it as far as Campbell, picked up by Boyle at the edge of the penalty area, goes past a couple of St Johnstone players, no way through to get the shot in, but he does get the pass to Cadden, right hand side, back into the area it comes. Again it's dealt with. Newell tries to blast it towards goal. McGowan was out quickly to block. Porteous now plays it square for Chabraya, about 15 yards inside the St Johnstone half as Hibs look for a second before half time.
They've lifted the intensity again after they've scored that goal. They've got that little zip back into their attacking play. Key that St Johnstone don't find themselves 2-0 down before half time.
Well, they're winless and goalless on their last 3 visits here. St Johnstone drawn 1 and lost 2 of those all last season. There's a goalless draw in there, a 4-0 defeat and a 1-0 defeat, and they trail 1-0 right now, and it's Hibs coming forward once again. Left hand side, cross comes in, Matthews takes that. Boyle hit the deck in the penalty area again as the ball was high in the air. He wasn't claiming for anything, certainly.
Yeah, I spoke about Kyle McGuinness. I mean, the ball is absolutely wrapped in. It was a particularly good ball from Paul Hanlon into McGuinness. His strength to hold off the defender and play it wide was exceptional. It created the chance for Chabraya to swing it in.
Porteous deals with a cross ball pretty well, and it's brought under control by Cadden, and then Porteous offers support once more, plays it back in field to Cadden just inside his own half. 4 minutes of the first half remaining. The home side with a 1-goal advantage, scored just a few moments ago. And forward comes Chabraya, left hand side. That's a dreadful ball into the penalty area, easy for Matthews to gather, and bowls it out quickly to Considine. Square for Gordon, and then out to the right hand side for Mitchell. St Johnstone looking to try and bring themselves level before the interval, but they really haven't tested David Marshall at all, and Hibs have won it back, and forward they come through McGuinness. McGuinness plays it forward, Kuharevich back heel looking for Boyle. It's cut out. It was a really good idea from the striker. It was a St Johnstone body in the way, and forward they come through James Brown, who was shoved as he tried to play the pass. It'll be a St Johnstone free kick just inside their own half.
McGuinness has to slide Martin Boyle in there. I mean, first of all, Boyle keeps his width, and I thought it was a straightforward pass just to hit Boyle's feet, and then he started making a run from out to in, and I didn't think it was a particularly difficult ball for McGuinness just to slide into his path and the run that he was going to make, and instead he reverses it into Kuharevich, who keeps the attack going, but he had a defender right on him. I thought there was a couple of opportunities there to get Boyle out.
I think Melker Hallberg's forgotten he doesn't play for Hibs anymore. He's just presented the ball straight to Martin Boyle. Boyle going for goal, saved by Remy Matthews. The right arm was outstretched and he managed to keep it out, but what on earth is Milker Hallberg doing, playing that straight to Martin Boyle?
Yeah, he tries to switch the play and he just catches it all wrong, and Martin Boyle is the last man you want to give it to. Considine, actually, although he does get the shot away, Considine stands him up enough so that he can't angle the shot into the corner, and Remy Matthews makes the save. But yeah, terrible mistake from Hallberg there.
Goal kick in the end to St Johnstone, which will be taken by Remy Matthews. Just a couple of minutes remaining in this first period. No major controversy for VAR to deal with in its debut in the Scottish game. And McGowan knocks it forward. Wright can't make anything of it. Then McGowan barged to the ground by Kuharevich, who has been booked, and will just have to be careful, not suggesting that was by any means a second yellow, but clearly once you're on a booking you just have to tread a careful line. 1 minute to be added on at the end of the first half. Still got 90 seconds of the 45 left by my stopwatch, as Hallberg prepares to take the free kick more or less on the halfway line. St Johnstone trail by Mikola Kuharevich's goal to 0. Clipped forward by Hallberg up to the edge of the penalty area, headed away by Hanlon, returned by Mitchell, headed away once more by Chabraya, up towards the halfway line. Kuharevich doing well, then down on that far side goes Campbell. I think both he and Kuharevich were caught by separate challenges. There's going to be a yellow card here as Porteous runs across to the referee complaining about at least one of the challenges, and I think it's James Brown who's going to find his way into the referee's book here. First St Johnstone booking of the game.
Yeah, they were both late, the tackles. Probably one of those. I don't know if either were yellow cards, but Kevin Clancy's convinced that James Brown's one was worthy of it.
I think his was the one on Campbell, who he's still on the ground just inside the Hibs half.
It was interesting when the goal went in as well, Al, because Cabrera flashed a lovely ball right across the face, one you're expecting either your striker or your on-rushing central midfield player or someone to be on the end of, and Lee Johnson turned round in frustration that no one's at the end of it. By the time he turned back round again, the ball was delivered back into the box, and Kuharevich with a, we said, magnificent header.
Free kick Hibs, right in the halfway line, to be taken by Joe Newell, as Campbell's back on his feet, didn't need any treatment in the end. And Hibs will have this free kick as we tick into that 1 minute of stoppage time at the end of the first period. In fact, Newell's going to leave this to Paul Hanlon. Fourth official is confirming that 1 minute, which we are now into. Hanlon prepares to launch this long diagonally up towards the edge of the penalty area. Kuharevich, who's barged in the back there by Considine. Everyone in the ground could see that apart from Kevin Clancy, I think. Conor McLennan picks up but then loses it. Porteous. Newell on the right hand side interchanges with Cadden. Cadden into the penalty area, away by Considine, gets it back once more from Hallberg. His attempted clearance is charged down. Newell's done well to win it back for Hibernian, right hand side. Cadden about 20 yards from the goal line, again looking to find the angle for the cross, plays it back to Newell short instead. Campbell now, Considine right behind him, and back the way it goes to Bashiri in the halfway line, and that looks like that final attack will just peter out as half time is upon us. Kevin Clancy brings it to a close, and Hibernian have the half time advantage, and you would have to say on the whole it is a deserved one. St Johnstone did come back into the game after being on the back foot for the opening period, as Mikola Kuharevich twice tested Remy Matthews in the opening couple of minutes. Both were saved well by the goalkeeper. In 8 minutes we had the first use of VAR, or certainly the first one we were aware of publicly, as Martin Boyle went down inside the penalty area. There was a quick check by Willie Collum, and Kevin Clancy had the finger to the ear to indicate that it was being checked. Martin Boyle had been booked, and the free kick had gone St Johnstone's way prior to that, and that decision stood, and Willie Collum agreeing with Kevin Clancy in that regard. We had to wait till the 35th minute until the breakthrough, as St Johnstone had played their way back into the game, but they were caught out when Chris Cadden swung a ball in from the right hand side, and up rose Mikola Kuharevich, the 21-year-old, finding the back of the net for the first time for Hibernian with a wonderful header, beating Liam Gordon in the jump, directing it beyond Remy Matthews in the St Johnstone goal to make it 1-0. A couple of minutes before the interval. Boyle tested Matthews once more. Again, the goalkeeper was up to the task on that occasion, which means at half-time at Easter Road on this Friday night Cinch Premiership match, it's Hibernian 1, St Johnstone 0.
On digital radio,
online at BBC Sport Scotland,
or play BBC Radio Scotland Extra on your smart speaker or BBC Sounds.
This is Sport Sound,
where Scottish football lives.
What a goal!
Previously on Breaking the News.
Do you think we will ever see a robot comedian?
Oh, I think that's very disrespectful. You're completely forgetting the legend that was Dusty Bin.
Subscribe to the podcast on BBC Sounds and listen this lunchtime from 1:30 for the next episode.
Since the accession of King Charles, top lawyers have changed from QC to KC, and the jury is now known as the Sunshine Band. Breaking the News, Scotland's topical panel show with me, Des Clark, on BBC Radio Scotland.
Well, the second half to come from Easter Road. We'll get the thoughts of Rory, Michael and Leanne in a moment. Let me just bring you the latest from tonight's Scottish Cup second round tie between Cumnock and Dunfermline. Cumnock, of course, play in the West of Scotland Premier Division, and Dumbarton of League Two. And it is the League Two side who are leading that one by a goal to nil. Stuart Caswell with a penalty on 28 minutes. They have played 33 minutes in that tie so far. So Cumnock 0, Dumbarton 1. Big weekend, of course, of Scottish Cup action to come for you. Tonight, though, a big night of Scottish Premiership action between Hibs and St Johnstone. And Hibs are leading St Johnstone by a goal to nil. Leanne, let's just get your thoughts before we bring the boys back in at Easter Road. Hibs started really brightly, didn't they? They had the lion's share of possession. Lots of lovely movement earlier on too. Some really neat interplay and good link-up play too.
Yeah, and well worthy, I would say, of their advantage at half-time. I think they've played the better football, as you mentioned. They've certainly had more opportunities in and around the box. They've looked to threaten the St Johnstone goal. They've forced saves. They've had shots on target. They've had pace middle to front. They've had combinations. They've had deliveries from wide areas. And when you put all that together, you more often than not will get your just rewards, and that will come with a goal. Having said that, I think defensively St Johnstone will be disappointed how the goal came about. It comes from McLennan being dispossessed down the left-hand side. You lose possession. You have a couple of opportunities, a couple of bites at it to go and deal with it and defend your box properly. And then the delivery, Michael mentioned it in commentary, the deliveries from Cadden are very good. He puts them into dangerous areas, but defensively, Liam Gordon has got to do more. Yes, it's a fantastic header from the Hibernian striker, but from a St Johnstone perspective, who we spoke about at the top of the show with regards to them having more of an identity about them, certainly more robust and carrying a threat middle to front. For me tonight, they've not done any of it. Defensively, they've not been switched on. They haven't dealt with the deliveries into their box. In middle to front, they've offered very little, as I mentioned. No shots on target, 5 touches in the opposition box, dispossessed in the middle of the pitch I don't know how many times. I'll actually be surprised if Conor McLennan comes back out at half time, if I'm being honest, because actually a lot of the problems have come from him dribbling in areas. He's been dispossessed 2 or 3 times in the middle of the pitch, and you don't need that as a St Johnstone side when you're looking to try and keep yourself in games and keep a momentum. We spoke about the form at the top of the show as well. 3 straight defeats on the bounce. You're looking to go Easter Road, a team with confidence, albeit have lost their last 2 games. You need to give yourself a fighting chance, and every player has to be bang at it. And I think there's a few in the St Johnstone team tonight that are miles off it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Callum Davison looks to his bench quite early on, especially when you've got players there like Jamie Murphy, Stevie May, Theo Bear, players that give you good attacking options. David Witherspoon back in the bench as well, we know, after his return from injury. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me if Callum looks to change things early and get his side back in it.
And while St Johnstone have been poor in that respect, Hibs, in contrast, we talked about what response that they would give their manager. They're playing with belief. They're playing with good intensity too, aren't they?
They are, middle to front. I think some of it's impressive. Martin Boyle gives you that threat anyway with his pace. I think in the middle of the pitch, ball players like Joe Newell, Josh Campbell, Kyle McGuinness, they take care of the ball. They look to try and find those forward passes. and it eventually paid off for them. Their persistence in the middle of the pitch, you know, Cadden's work rate down that right hand side, as much as he works forward and tries to, you know, get good deliveries into the box, he does that defensive job really well in a wing back situation where he's back in doing the defensive job and he turns that defence into attack, and he's managed to do that more often than not. But I do think that they're, you know, susceptible defensively, Hibs at times. When I looked at the positioning in one instance of Cadden and Porteous in that right hand side, actually Ryan Porteous, and I think the guys picked up on it in commentary, Ryan Porteous is actually having a go at Chris Cadden for his positioning, and it was Ryan Porteous that was all over the shop. You know, when you're part of a back three like that, your job is to defend your box. He was outside his box, he was doubling up in a wide area when he wasn't required. There was an overlapping run that he didn't track, and that could have been an opportunity had St Johnstone taken better care of the ball and found an end product. So I do think there's been bits of it where they started really quickly. I think they then, you know, the guys again mentioned that the tempo had dropped. Then once they get the goal, they kind of sparked into life again. So there's been a couple of sides to Hibs within that first half, but certainly the goal and the advantage will give them a lot of confidence going into the second half, and they'll be desperate to go and get that second goal and put the game to bed.
Let's bring Rory and Michael back into this one. The guys watching the game unfold before their very eyes, that live at Easter Road. Michael, what impressed you most about the first half from a Hibs point of view?
I think the tempo of their game, you know, over the piece, you know, Leon's obviously just touching on the fact that it did drop for a little bit there, but I think that their speed of play has been good. The interchange, and you know, I mentioned it in the first half, considering it's not a system that they've played lots this season, I've been impressed with how comfortable they've looked in that combination play. The link up clearly been worked on, and you know, I think Lee Johnstone was obviously sort of indicating that was the case, that they'd done a lot of work this week, wanted a reaction, had to get a reaction, and so far it's been positive for Hibs. Important that they got that first goal though, because I think, you know, had they gone in at half time 1-0, had they gone in 0-0, then St Johnstone would have taken a lot of confidence from that Hibs had played pretty well. They'd been in and around the box, there'd been a few opportunities, but they were still sitting 0-0, and you know, the longer that goes for St Johnstone, then the more confident they would have become. So I think it was pretty important, pretty key that Hibs got their noses in front, and you know, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how St Johnstone react to that. You know, just touching on what Leanne said about Conor McLennan, yeah, ineffective to a great extent, no real end product. He's not alone. I think St Johnstone have been poor when they've been into those sorts of areas. That, you know, there was another thing that Andrew Constantine came forward unopposed, and he got into the final third, and it wasn't a difficult ball, he just had to slip it into, I thought it was Conor McLennan, it might well have been Nicky Clark, but he was in and around the edge of the box and there was a wee gap. Just be accurate with the passing, and that's happened on a few occasions with Johnstone. Just when they've got within about 40 yards of the goal, they've not had that quality to open up the Hibs defence. But it'll be interesting to see whether they get a reaction in the second half, whether Callum Davison makes a change at the top end of the park or not, because at 1-0 the game is still well and truly there for St Johnstone to get themselves into it.
Yeah, it certainly is. I guess, Rory, the big question is, and the guys have spoken about it, how do they get back into it? Would you expect Callum Davison to be making changes?
I don't know if he'll make changes straight away, but certainly if they start the second half like they started the first, he won't be waiting too long whatsoever to make those changes. One thing I will say is, and you know, haven't been able to say this about St Johnstone for quite some time, they can make changes. They've got Stevie May on the bench, David Wotherspoon, Theo Bair, Ali Crawford, Jamie Murphy, guys that can come on and impact the game. Last season they were looking at the likes of Nadir Chifchi, who, you know, looked way off it. He was the only real option at times coming on off the bench, so he can change it if he needs to. Whether he does or not straight away, I'm not quite sure. From a St Johnstone point of view, how do they get back into it? Regardless of who's on the pitch, the unforced errors for this level of football have been through the roof. You know, passing it straight out the pitch a couple of times, Hallberg has, passing it straight to the opposition. So there's things within the game the players on the pitch could do a lot better, and like I said, for this level of football you would expect them to do a lot better. We're not talking about the intricacies of tactics and, you know, distances between players. We're talking about passing the ball 10 yards, so, you know, you'd expect that to be better from St Johnstone, and I think it hopefully should be in the second half. And you know, McLennan Hallberg, a couple of others have been really guilty of basic errors. Considine, to be fair to him, for me, he's the only one of the back three who's shown initiative, and whilst he's maybe lost the ball a couple of times or made bad decisions, he's shown an intensity to go after Hibs, sometimes pressing them to the halfway line, and showing a little bit of responsibility, but they just need to improve all round St Johnstone in this second half, starting with the basics.
Leanne, all the pre-match chat, of course, was about VAR. We've seen a couple of checks. The first one, the historic one, was Martin Boyle, who went down in the area. That was checked. That the yellow that was given for diving was stood. It was a quick check, wasn't it? The second one, VAR checked for the goal. I think that was for a potential foul in the build-up, wasn't it? Now, we saw one or two Hibs players who were not happy with the length of time that check was taking. That patience you called upon. It's wearing a bit thin already, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that those are the moments that goals, regardless of how legitimate you might feel they are, they will be checked. And it goes back to the attacking phase of play, as we were reminded last week. And that was, I think, initially they thought there was perhaps a foul on McLennan. I think it was again that was dispossessed. So they go back and look at that, so it's not just the moment where the ball hits the back of the net. They're not just looking at offside. They're not just looking at the goal in that one instance. They're going right back to where it started. And that does take a little bit of time to look at all the cameras that are available, all the angles, all the scenarios, and then ultimately you will get the decision. I think Martin Boyle, it was that, I think he's been a bit grumpy since he picked up a yellow card, if I'm being honest. He obviously hasn't, been listening to Lee Johnson this week when he's been training him on VAR, that everything will be looked at. He didn't need VAR, Kevin Clancy looked at it right away.
Yeah, got it
felt
right,
it was simulation. He was spot on with it. It was looked at, and there was nothing to be seen. So since that moment, I think Martin Boyle's been a bit grumpy. But they got the goal, and it was absolute legit.
Leanne, in terms of VAR, sorry Jane, and the teething issues and the length of time, it's important to remember as well that it's not run perfectly in any country when it's first started. So we don't want to be, we don't want to paint this picture of only in Scotland, that type of idea. That would be unfair on the referees who are just getting, you touched on at the top of the show, Leanne, who are getting used to a brand new system. So you look at England, for example. I think Arsenal were playing last week. The full system went down for 15 minutes. The players had to warm up again. So it's important that we're patient with it and understand that whilst they're working with machinery, these guys are getting used to a brand new way of working.
No, just play on.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen here, isn't it? If VAR goes down, they will play on. They're not going to stop matters for that.
So what if there's a big decision? Just get on with it.
Let's get news of a change at half-time from a St Johnstone point of view. Brian McLaughlin can bring us that.
Yeah, Stevie May has had the call. He was out warming up and he was called back into the dressing room. He's ready to come on. The player he'll be replacing is number 19, Adam Montgomery. So potentially a little change as well in the system of St Johnstone. But Stevie May on, Adam Montgomery off at the start of the second half.
Leanne, you're pulling a face as if to say you're a bit surprised by that.
Yeah, I think the guys have spoke about it as well. It could have been a number of St Johnstone players that you changed. I don't know if Montgomery would have been the first one for me, whether it's an injury or not, but perhaps just to change to the system. They will go maybe a straight back four. I'm sure the guys will give us an insight into that as soon as the game's up and running.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the game is about to get back up and running. We can just see pictures of Stevie May running on to the pitch for the second half, which is coming up very shortly. The St Johnstone players are out onto the pitch. The Hibs players are just about to follow suit. In fact, there they are. Let's get back to the second half of this one, shall we? Hibs against St Johnstone at Easter Road. Our commentary team once again of Rory Loy, Michael Stewart and Alistair Lamont.
Thanks again, Jane. Yeah, just that on that change for St Johnstone, what will certainly happen is Dre Wright is going to come out and play probably right wing back. James Brown has reverted to the left, where he's been playing quite regularly recently. But certainly Stevie May, you would imagine, will go up and play alongside Nicky Clark. So certainly a tweak to the system, but I think probably the back three will remain in place with the wing backs as well. As Hibernian prepare to get us back underway, it'll be Joe Newell to kick us off in this second half. Hibs going from right to left as we look at it from the back of the main stand, and players are ready. Hibs with a 1-goal advantage. Nikola Kuharevich with his first goal for the Easter Road club since coming in on loan from the French club Troyes over the summer. Back underway then, and Hibs launch it long through Porteous. Mitchell repels that, and McLennan, he's also come out more or less to this right hand side for the moment, having played on the left in the first period. So I'll let Michael and Rory just analyse exactly how the tactics might have changed over the next few minutes, as Hibs have the throw in on the near side, their left. Back it goes to Paul Hanlon, and then all the way back to David Marshall. Hibs looking to move 4 points clear of St Mirren and Aberdeen ahead of the other weekend fixtures, which of course we will have covered for you right here on Sports Sound on all of our various platforms, beginning with Hearts Celtic tomorrow lunchtime. Looking forward to that one as well, as Chris Cadden picks up for Hibernian. Newell for Porteous, right hand side for Hibs, back with Newell, midway inside the St Johnstone half, tries to direct that towards the back post, looking for Chibraya. It was overhit, straight behind for a goal kick. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0.
Just in terms of the change that, on the actual personnel away from the tactics, I think, I mentioned throughout the first half that Montgomery had large spells where he was struggling. I mean, if you look at the first half, 90% of Hibs' joy came down that side. I think if that's happening right in front of the manager's nose, it doesn't help the player either. Callum Davidson's side, it's possibly why he's taken a view to bring Adam Montgomery off, because tactically, it's a difficult position to play, and just felt he wasn't able to impact the game going forward and was struggling slightly defensively.
Here's Boyle, about 30 yards from goal, tracked by McGowan, plays it to Campbell. Kuharevich going back the way when he could get turned, plays it back to Porteous instead. Out to the right hand side now for Cadden. Boyle gives him the run down the flanks, tries to spin away from Considine. Into the penalty area it goes, knocked away by Liam Gordon. Bashiri is last man back there for Hibs, gets out to Porteous, who plays it quickly to Newell, and then out to the right hand side once more to the man who provided the assist for the goal, Chris Cadden. It's into the feet of Campbell, and now Newell, right footed, took a deflection on its way through. Corner kick to Hibs.
Good play, nice interchange, good bit of footwork from Joe Newell on the edge of the box. I mean, it looked to all intents and purposes that he was going to have a strike on his left foot, because he is all left footed. He just checked it back onto his right, created a little bit of space. St Johnstone able to get a couple of defenders out in the end to make the block, and a corner now for Hibs, but Hibs will be happy with the way they've started the second half. It's been bright again.
McGuinness to take from the left hand side, right footed, curls it in towards the back post. Matthews clutches that under no pressure, had to watch it all the way, but no Hibs player anywhere near him, and ultimately it was a comfortable take for the goalkeeper. Still 1-0 then, 3 minutes played in the second period. Considine emerges from the back. Here's Stevie May, first involvement really. James Brown out to the left, and back with Considine. Switch of play though for Mitchell, takes it down and then plays it forward for Wright, away from Chibraya, but helped out by McGuinness. Chibraya has won it back, then he plays it to Campbell. Campbell has Boyle right hand side, he plays it behind. That was a poor ball, he has to check. Boyle still gets it though, back post ball for Hanlon, nods it down, not dealt with initially by Gordon, but gets lucky because it fell to McGowan, and now St Johnstone can come on the counter, and it's Conor McLaren. They've got 3-on-2 St Johnstone. What can McLaren provide here? Slips it to May. May has to hold up his run though, gets the shot in, takes a slight deflection off Bashiri. Decent save by Marshall, but one you'd expect him to make, and ultimately the ball from Conor McLaren wasn't good enough for Stevie May, because they had 3-on-2, they had the overload, but they couldn't make the most of it.
Well, it's 2 attacks and 2 poor balls. When Josh Campbell's going forward for Hibs, it's not a difficult ball. He's got 10 yards to hit in front of Martin Boyle. I mean, it really is not difficult. You've got a player with them, doesn't it? You've got exactly. You've got a player with lightning pace. All he has to do is play the ball in front of him, and Martin Boyle's in behind the defence. As Rory says, he hits it to his feet, and the momentum's gone completely out the attack. And in that one for St Johnstone, I'm not sure whether Conor McLaren actually lifts his head and sees. I think it's Nicky Clark that's making the run through the middle originally, and then Stevie May gets up and brilliant support with him, and he underhits that as well. Just Rocky Bashiri's fallen to the ground. He just needs to knock it 5-10 yards.
Good play by Kuharevich at the other end, finds Boyle. Boyle tries to slip that for Cadden. He's done the opposite of what Josh Campbell did. He's overhit that pass and straight out for a goal kick. I mean, it's something that's afflicted both sides tonight, Rory, that these passes that have gone astray when it looks like a fairly straightforward one.
Yeah, unforced errors. Hibs weren't particularly guilty of it in the first half, but certainly in the second half, that's 2 in a row. One from Boyle and one from Campbell that have been well under par in what you'd expect.
St Johnstone trying to play out from the back. It's Brown. I guess what their counter a minute ago will do is at least give them some hope that they can replicate that and create chances in this second period. They try to at least pull a goal back to get them back on level terms, but they really have to be making more of such opportunities. Conor McLennan in his first St Johnstone start just didn't find the correct pass for Stevie May. He also had another option which he didn't take. Bashiri and Clark just coming together again. Ball drifts over both of them all the way through to David Marshall. 6 minutes into the second period, Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0. Mikola Kuharevich with a goal 10 minutes before the break, as Considine gets it back to Matthews, who had to just rush slightly with Martin Boyle always looking interested, and with his pace you can never quite be sure. May on the left hand side for St Johnstone, back to Considine, and then back in field for Gordon, midway inside his own half. Pressed by Kuharevich out to the left hand side for Considine.
McGowan needs to find a way to get on the ball now. He's in the middle of the pitch. He needs to maybe empty the space, get Hallberg involved.
Here's Hallberg, tries to just play that down the left channel, disguised pass for Clark, but Marshall had read that, and Bashiri would have probably got there even if he hadn't. Hibs easily able to deal with it. That's
never.
McGuinness catching Brown, and I think it's going to be a yellow card for Kyle McGuinness. No, you didn't think that was a yellow?
I don't think so, personally. I think he's backing out the challenge before he even gets near him. That's what it looked like to me, and James Brown goes up in the air. For me, it looks a lot worse than it actually is.
Michael?
Absolutely. Tells you everything. You think that was a red or a yellow, Alistair?
I didn't say either. I asked both of you a question.
The tone, I can tell you thought that was a definite yellow, potentially even a red card. I was getting a feeling from you there.
There you go.
No, it's exactly what Rory said, that I don't think he catches them with his foot. It's just literally James Brown riding over the back of Kyle McGuinness. I think 100% it looked a lot worse than it actually was, and Kevin Clancy could have just had a quiet word with him.
Well, Kyle McGuinness joins Martin Boyle and Mikola Kuharevich as Hibs players in the book. James Brown himself is already in there from a St Johnstone point of view. Here's Hallberg midway inside his own half, leaves it to Gordon, steps away from Kuharevich, crossing the halfway line out to the left hand side. James Brown for May, back to Brown once more, making a few yards down that left flank for St Johnstone, up against Cadden outside the penalty area. Brown tries to get past him, Cadden sticks to his task, goes to ground, foul by Brown. Hibs free kick, good defending from Chris Cadden.
Yeah, he's more of a fullback. You could potentially argue James Brown, especially being out on that left hand side, maybe not favoured for him. He didn't really have a step over, he didn't really have a trick. Pretty simple defending in the end.
Also, as a right footer playing that wing back role, it always looks a little bit more awkward to me, always trying to get back onto the right foot, isn't he? David Marshall to take the free kick from inside his own penalty area. 9 minutes of the second half played. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0. Considine wins the header. Up goes Bashiri, falls to May, but he can't bring it under control, and Kuharevich steps in, sells Cadden a little bit short, but does really well to keep the ball under pressure from Stevie May, and finds Hanlon, and now Chibrai on the left hand side clips it forward looking for the run of Campbell. Cross comes Liam Gordon, swipes that out of play, takes everything, takes the man and the ball there, but it'll be a throw into Hibs on this near side, the Hibs left, about 10 yards or so from the corner flag. And again, Joe Newell will come forward and potentially launch this one into the penalty area with that long throw of his.
Handy weapon to have, that.
Sure is. Winding one up as Hibs throw Bashiri and Hanlon and Porteous into the penalty area. Newell's thrown into the 6 yard box. It's won by Gordon, comes to Campbell on the edge of the box, claimed for handball by Nicky Clark, then breaks to McGuinness, and he wastefully hits well wide of goal.
Joe Neal's long. I've never noticed it. I can't say that it's something that I've recognised Hibs using before, but I tell you, he's getting it, comfortably into the middle of the box for guys to go and attack it. It's a very, very dangerous weapon.
Sure is. Here's Brown at the other end as Johnstone look for the equaliser. Stevie May now takes up possession. Comes off the head of Porteous as he tries to clip it forward. Mickey Clark just trying to see that out for a corner, but Bashiri got a good foot to it. Knocks it only to Hallberg though. Now it's back with Brown, still left hand side for St Johnstone. Good backtracking by McGuinness to win possession for Hibs though. Considine steps in as McGuinness tries to play it forward, but McGuinness battling away, and Hibs have possession. It's Kuharevich. Boyle makes the run away from him. Kuharevich with some good footwork, still he has it. Midway inside the St Johnstone half, releases it now for Campbell. Left hand side, Chabraya into the penalty area, just wide of goal from Martin Boyle, who made the dash across the front, and he was caught as he did so. He's gone down. The goal kick has been awarded as Martin Boyle was caught by the defender in there as he tried to just nick it into the front post. It was a terrific move from Hibernian from the defensive position. Great work by McGuinness. He worked it through up to Kuharevich, and then the ball from Chabraya turned wide by Boyle, and it remains Hibernian 1, St Johnstone 0.
What a goal it would have been. I mean, it would have been an absolutely fantastic goal had that gone in the back of the net. Martin Boyle had a couple of movements off the ball where, looking like Kuharevich could have slipped it into him, he ended up making the right choice. There was an overload down the left hand side with Chabraya getting round the outside of Josh Campbell, who weighted the ball perfectly for Chabraya. Great first time ball from him across the face of the goal, and Martin Boyle with that run towards the front post. Very difficult for him because he was running at such pace, and he was probably past the front post when he made the contact with it.
He's given it away there to McLennan, who has it back from Clark. Stevie May in support also, that's where the ball goes. Quickly surrounded though by a couple of Hibs players. Newell though penalised for his attentions on Stevie May, and St Johnstone have a free kick in a pretty decent position to throw this one into the penalty area. But yeah, Martin Boyle just at the other end just needed the very, very deftest of flicks, and he couldn't quite execute it correctly. A difficult position from which to do so, and it remains Hibs 1, St Johnstone 0. But a chance here for St Johnstone, Rory.
Yeah, they need to make the most of this. They did venture up the pitch early in the second half, but opportunities have been limited, so it's important that they get this delivery right, create an opportunity if possible.
About 35 yards from goal, it's Hallberg, left of centre, clips it into the area, away by Hanlon, out to the edge of the box where McLennan, right hand side, picks it up, knocks it back into the penalty area, away by McGuinness, who's having a good game and his first start in over a year for Hibernian, having gone off, and his previous start was against St Johnstone. Oddly enough, here's May on the left hand side. Again, it's McGuinness getting the challenge in, breaks for Considine, back with May, still left hand side for the Saints. 13 minutes played in the second half. Brown whips it into a decent area, but Bashiri's there with a commanding header. St Johnstone trying to keep it alive, but it's going to break the way of Chabraya on the left hand side. Tries to turn back infield. McGowan read that, sticking close to him. Chabraya under real pressure, does well to get the ball away to Newell. Felt he was being fouled, but Newell will come away with possession, and that is a good advantage being played by Kevin Clancy. Out to the left for Campbell, about 30 yards from the St Johnstone goal line. Has to check back, and eventually Chabraya's picked himself up and offers himself in support. Infield it goes to Newell, and back the way to Hanlon, and momentum rather gone out of that attack, but Hibs still have it. And here's McGuinness just outside the centre circle, coming forward for Hibernian, plays it just to his right to Porteous. Newell's the ball that's on inside the centre circle. Hibs fans want them to go forward, a couple of sideways passes there, and the boos ring out. Now they come forward, it's up to Kuharevich, well matched there by Gordon, and St Johnstone have it back. Brown for May, crossing the halfway line. Out to this right hand side is McLennan. That's who May will try and pick up. Is he going to catch that one? He does. Just manages to keep it in, but he stumbles over the goal line himself. Unfortunate for Conor McLennan. He bust a gut to keep that in, and then couldn't keep his own feet, and Hibs come away with the ball. As we just approach the hour mark, it remains Hibernian 1, St Johnstone 0, as Hibs try and mount another attack of their own. Out to the right hand side it goes to Cadden, infield for McGuinness, tracked by McGowan. It's Cadden once more, hugging the touchline and then coming in and off it. Back to Bashiri on the halfway line. Square for Hanlon. And then out to this near side, the Hibs left for Chabraya. Tracked by Dre Wright. Infield it goes to Newell. Newell trying to spin away from Hallberg. Former Hibs teammates. Now Cadden tries to play the 1-2 with McGuinness. Back went Brown just to knock that out of play in the far side. Hibs throw about 15 yards from the corner flag on the right hand side. Cadden preparing to take. It's been a decent game, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the ball from there, Stevie May does McLennan no favours whatsoever. McLennan tries his best. The execution of the pass wasn't great.
Again.
Yeah, again. However, the difference for St Johnstone, they do look slightly more dangerous going forward with Stevie May on the pitch. A more forward-thinking player, getting up and supporting Nicky Clark.
The St Johnstone fans, sorry, the Hibs fans thought that Kuharevich was being manhandled inside the box there by Considine, and then when the ball broke outside the penalty area, Kuharevich was then deemed to be guilty.
I think they're
of
just
a foul
desperate
himself.
for some form of VAR check, Al. I think that's it.
Oh yeah, we all are. There's going to be a Hibs change, which we'll get news of in just a moment from our pitch side reporter Brian McLaughlin. But St Johnstone just stepping forward through Andrew Considine up towards the halfway line, out to Brown, goes all the way back to Liam Gordon just on the edge of his own penalty area, just beyond the hour mark now. Still just a slender advantage for Hibs, certainly not one that's comfortable enough to take their foot off the gas. Poor ball forward though, into the arms of David Marshall, who bowls it out for Joe Newell, who's got a bit of space in the middle of the park here, tossing the halfway line now up towards Boyle. Boyle lays it off for Porteous. Porteous back to Boyle midway inside the St Johnstone half. Hibs got plenty of bodies forward here. Newell now picks up once more, 35 yards from goal, plays the wall pass with Campbell, now out to Chabraya, looking to get it onto the left foot, well matched there by McLennan, back doing some defensive work. That's a good ball from Newell, back to Chabraya. McLennan couldn't cut that one out, and then Chabraya balloons it away over the crossbar. I mean, we've had a few bad passes. That's got to be the worst of them all. Brian McLaughlin for the change.
I think that's the worst cross I've ever seen in Premiership football. Anyway, in number 23, Elian is coming on. The player he's replacing is the goal scorer, Mikola Kuharevich. Of course, is also on a yellow card. There's going to be a couple of changes as well made by St Johnstone. Both David Witherspoon and Jamie Murphy will be coming on. The players who will be replaced, we're just waiting on the board coming up, but yeah, David Witherspoon and Jamie Murphy certainly coming on for St Johnstone. It looks as if number 5, Alex Mitchell, is coming off. That may mean another change in system for St Johnstone. The other replacement is number 14, Dre Wright. So Wright and Mitchell off, and Jamie Murphy comes on, as does Stevie May's already on the pitch, and David Witherspoon.
Thanks, Brian. Another couple of former Hibs players join the St Johnstone ranks then. So I don't know, I mean, that probably would suggest there's going to be something of a change of shape. I'm not sure if I was taking a central defender off, it would have been Alex Mitchell, in all honesty, as Witherspoon immediately gets on the ball and gives it away to Josh Campbell. Here come Hibs looking for a second goal. McGuinness with a shot, saved by Matthews. Newell trying to force it back goalwards, couldn't keep his feet to get the shot on target, and Witherspoon picks back up inside his own penalty area and keeps his composure, but can't find McLennan with the pass. That's twice he's given it away to a Hibs jersey in the opening 60 seconds of his appearance here back at Easter Road, having not long returned from injury. That's Yuan just running the ball out for a goal kick to St Johnstone.
Well, you can see St Johnstone, Ryan McGowan's looking over at the bench to ask them, is he going in at right sided centre half? There's still a little bit of confusion. I'm not convinced that they know exactly whether they're changing the system or whether Ryan McGowan is going in at that right centre half position.
Well, confusion reigning just for the moment among the St Johnstone players, and we'll try and establish as soon as possible just how they are shaping up now and into this closing 25-26 minutes at Easter Road. Still they trail by a goal to nil.
It does look like that, and you know, Conor McLennan is now the third right wing back St Johnstone have deployed tonight. Taking Dre Wright off, and McLennan looked a little bit tired stretching from that ball previously. I'm surprised Dre Wright was the one to make way. Having to shuffle players around the pitch hasn't worked particularly well so far for Callum Davidson. David
Witherspoon certainly playing in a central midfield role, as McGowan picks up right hand side. He loses out to Campbell. Campbell tries to feed it forward for Yuan, who got his first Hibs goal in that 6-1 rout at Celtic Park. Not much of a consolation really. He's back with Remy Matthews. Hanlon wins the header from the clearance, and then Campbell nods it down to Newell. Newell, that's a lovely ball over the top. Can Boyle take it in his stride? Good first touch, good second. Back for Ewan with his chance, and it's straight at Matthews, who's almost wrong-footed but managed to just keep his balance and save that pretty comfortably in the end. Lovely ball from Newell, and Boyle matched it with the layback.
There's been a couple of moments from Hibs of real quality. You know, the one before that we were talking about where Martin Boyle gets across the front post and just misses the target. And that one there, a beautiful ball from Joe Newell, perfectly weighted. And Hibs, when they're like that, you know, they've got real pace in their attack that's difficult to defend against.
Nicky Clark giving chase against Paul Hanlon, but across comes Rocky Bashiri to get there before both of them, and then knocks it back to Hanlon, who's able to make the clearance. Ewan and Campbell going for the same ball, neither of them win it, and Wotherspoon picks up. I'm not sure if he's got the right footwear on down there. He's not really been able to keep his balance since he's gone on the park, and it's out for a throw-in to Hibernian.
McGuinness has had his moments, but Joe Newell's been the best player on the pitch so far. Lovely to watch. You know, there's passes that we can see from our vantage point, and you can see them lining up when they haven't come off. Most of his has, and you could see what he was doing there from the moment he swung his leg back, and the execution of it was wonderful.
Yeah, he's a class act, Joe Newell. Bashiri back to Marshall. St Johnstone still in the game, trailing by a goal to nil.
That's the thing, they are 1-0, well and truly still in the game. You know, Hibs have not been able to kill it off, and it's when it's like this, you know, you bring on guys like David Wotherspoon. He's got the ability, he's got quality that can open up a defence, set piece potentially. The game is still well and truly there for St Johnstone to get something from it.
Quarter of the game remaining, is just that 1-goal lead that Hibernian have, as McGowan prepares to launch a long throw of his own, about in line with the 18-yard box, really, in the right hand side for St Johnstone, as they search for an equaliser, and the fans down to our right who have travelled in support of their team get behind them. McGowan launches the long one, headed away. Ewan helps it on. St Johnstone trying to keep it alive. McLennan and Ewan, and McLennan's taken out of play there by Campbell, and we're going to get another yellow card, and it's going to be for Hibernian's Josh Campbell this time. And it's another good position for St Johnstone. It's just a few yards in from the right touchline, but only about 25 or so yards away from the goal line, and again another opportunity to throw a ball into the penalty area, and you've got David Wotherspoon over it, so you know it should be a good delivery.
It was just overly eager from Josh Campbell to try and close things down and make the tackle, when, you know, in fact the player's running away from goal towards the shy line. Just jockey him, he didn't need to dive into the tackle.
Wotherspoon lines up the free kick, right-footed this will be. Oh, and he's got it all wrong. It's way too deep, way beyond the far post, and out for a goal kick. And my goodness, I mean, there's so many good players out there, and some of the passing and crossing has been so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can find a little bit of leverage and forgiveness in David Wotherspoon, given that he's been out for so long and he's been asked to come on and make a real impact on this game. But he is, as Michael says, capable of it, despite a few mistakes. One moment of quality at 1-0, can swing it.
Yeah, that's an opportunity missed certainly for St Johnstone, as Marshall takes the goal kick. Campbell can't bring it under control, and McLennan picks up and finds Murphy inside the centre circle. Gets it back from Hallberg. Now Brown out on the left hand side, slides it forward for May, midway inside the Hibs half, up against Porteous. Back comes Cadden to try and help out Porteous, and Stevie May has coughed up possession. Porteous clears down the right hand side, straight out for a throw in though to St Johnstone, just inside the Hibs half, quickly taken into Wotherspoon, and now back with Gordon out to the left for Considine. Now Murphy's come deep to pick up possession. That's a poor challenge by McGuinness on Jamie Murphy. McGuinness, yeah, he's been booked, second yellow, and that won't be looked at. as we know. But Kyle McGuinness with a daft challenge in the middle of the park, just late on Jamie Murphy.
You don't
and
need to look
down
at
to 10 men.
You don't need to look at it again. That was daft. Absolutely. You know, it just, I don't know what's going through his mind to lunge into the tackle. Just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, actually initially a sore one. I thought he caught him right in the ankle. Jamie Murphy's thankfully up and around now, but knowing he's on a booking, it's a crazy decision. Whether it's, you know, having been out for so long, a bit of mental tiredness, maybe I've been too kind, I don't know, but strange decision in an area where St Johnstone aren't threatening Hibs' goal or anywhere close to it.
He's had a good game as well.
But just for argument's sake that was an incorrect decision. We've got, what, 10-15 minutes left? Down to 10
20 minutes left.
Then, you know, that's going to have an impact on the game.
Yep. Not that you like to look for arguments just for the sake of it, Michael.
It's debate, Alistair, debate. Trying to get the best practices in place.
Can St Johnstone take advantage of having a man extra for these closing 20 minutes? That's the question. Here is Jamie Murphy, who was on the receiving end of that poor challenge from McGuinness. Out to the left it goes for Stevie May, midway inside the Hibs half. Back now with Brown.
But it's just craziness from McGuinness there. Just I don't understand. You know, there was no danger. It's in the middle. It's on the halfway line.
Here's Gordon stepping forwards. Breaks for Wotherspoon, edge of the penalty area. Wotherspoon with a chance. Shots deflected and Porteous just heads it behind. He stooped to head that behind for a corner. And I think, Rory, you thought that he was perhaps going to present that to Stevie May, or didn't realise he was behind him.
Yeah, there was a similar incident at Celtic Park not so long ago, and I just had visions of that happening again, where the defender goes to cushion it to the goalkeeper and it ends up in the net. But lovely play from Wotherspoon. He's so good at that, faking to shoot and getting that yard of space, but unfortunately for him it just creeps wide.
St Johnstone corner, left hand side, as they now press for an equaliser with a man advantage in these closing stages. Into the 6-yard box it comes, up with a header and into the back of the net, and it's Nicky Clark with the St Johnstone equaliser. It's a tremendous leap from the striker. What a finish from Nicky Clark.
Well, I'll be interested to see if this gets pulled up. It looked like he might have been climbing or pushing Hibs defender, so I'll be very interested to see what the decision is. I'm not sure, I haven't just seen it in real play, but he got up pretty well. And it looked
brilliantly, you'd have to say.
It looked to me like he had the two hands on his back, so it will be interesting to see it again. It'll certainly get checked, but it would not surprise me to see Kevin Clancy take a little wander over at the monitor on this touchline, but an interesting one.
Yeah, well, just to reiterate, every goal is checked, so regardless of whether anyone has initially spotted something, the VAR officials will just spool back and make sure that everything leading up to the goal was okay. And Nicky Clark, well, he celebrated as if he'd equalised. Kevin Clancy is having a word in his ear, and the decision is made and the goal is given.
Well, you've got to assume that it was quite clear then, you know, in regards to the camera angle, that he just got up very well. But I was with Rory there. My instinct was that it looked like he'd had his two hands on the Hibs defender, and there was quite a few Hibs players that were complaining about it as well. So I'll be very interested to see what the replay looks like when we eventually get to see it. But Hibs have shot themselves in the foot. They really have. They should have had the game out of sight, but you just knew it, and we said it. As long as it was 1-0, all you need, a set piece.
Another top draw header, that, Michael. Very good finish.
Yeah, it was a brilliant header, wasn't it, from Nicky Clark? And although he's not the biggest, but he does have a good leap, and he's scored his fair share of headers over the years, and that was a really good one as well. And so St Johnstone do draw level just a couple of minutes after Hibs had been reduced to 10 men for a second yellow for Kyle McGuinness, and all of a sudden it's St Johnstone who are looking for their first victory here in some time. It's the St Johnstone fans who are making the noise.
St Johnstone would have capitulated last year. You know, this is a side that have kept themselves in it, and they have that attacking. You look at the attacking threat that they've got in the park now. You've got Nicky Clark at the top, Stevie May, who, granted, he's not the player he was in his younger days, but he's still somebody that I think, you know, in this system, he can cause problems. Jamie Murphy over on the other side as well. Witherspoon in the middle of the park. There's boys there that have got technical ability.
And they've all come off the bench. He's got a much bigger pool of players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said that earlier, Rory, that it's a much stronger bench. Chief G was the only real option before. There's options there for St Johnstone now.
Marshall clears and Cadden picks up midway inside the St Johnstone half. Hibs will still feel they can win it despite being down to 10 men. Here's Chabraya, left hand side. Infield it goes to Boyle. Boyle trying to get away from McGowan. In the central area now, plays out to the right hand side for Porteous. Porteous swings it in, headed away by Considine, out to May. May tries to spin away from Bashir. He was dragged to the ground there. Play continues with St Johnstone still in possession. Just under 15 minutes of the 90 left to play. I think there's only about 3 minutes between McGuinness being ordered off and Nicky Clark scoring the equaliser there, as Stevie May plays the ball behind his teammate Jamie Murphy there, and Hibs can try and break forward. It's Chabraya helping it, looking for Ellie Yuan, but too much on it. Out comes Remy Matthews. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 1.
It's back to forcing it. You know, Hibs are down to 10 men. They've just been pegged back 1-1. Okay, but still need to concentrate on doing the right things. There was an option there just to slide the ball into Martin Boyle's feet. Johan's making the run in behind, which is stretching the St Johnstone defence. Space there just to slide it into Martin Boyle's feet. Try to play that ball down the line. It was, you know, the percentages in that ball coming off are slim to none, really.
St Johnstone have a throw in over on the far side there, left hand side. Bashiri hitting it into Rose Ed, almost literally. And St Johnstone will certainly feel they should be the side more likely to go on and win this. They won just a few weeks before that cup final victory here in May 21. It was the last time they did win here, as Considine has it on the left hand side. Infield it goes for Brown. Brown across the penalty area, and Chabraya and Marshall both leave that. Conor McLennan couldn't get on the end of it. It wasn't a bad ball, I didn't think, but McLennan didn't really go for it.
That's the thing, you say he couldn't get on the end of it. He didn't go for it. He's been a little bit sluggish all night. There's not really been any, you know, signs of intensity or bursting into life from him. And in that one there, you're thinking to yourself, just gamble. If he gambles around the back there, there's a good chance he would have been able to get on the end of it.
Marshall goal kick. 13 minutes to play. As Campbell picks up, he's dispossessed by Witherspoon. Fortunately for him, it breaks to Hanlon. Now Chabraya. Boyle runs into McGowan. McGowan comes forward now for St Johnstone. He's got McLennan outside of him. He comes infield instead though. Hits the deck, but the ball goes to Hallberg. And now Considine just inside the Hibs half, out to May on the left hand side up against Porteous, just pokes it infield for Murphy. Murphy plays away from Campbell and he squeezes it through for May. May with a chance, across goal it comes. Is it going to be in? Oh, some brilliant defending in there from Hibs to somehow prevent St Johnstone going in front. It looked certain after David Marshall had parried it that McLennan was going to get in there for the rebound, but somehow Hibs kept it out of the net, and it remains Hibs 1, St Johnstone 1.
Yeah, it's good play from the two substitutes again. Murphy playing in May. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the Hibs defence. I mean, he's got the freedom of Easter Road to pick his pass, comes across, and the keeper, it's David Marshall who's called into action this time. Again, I think it's a save you'd expect him to make, and I think it's McLennan can't quite get on the end of the rebound to tuck it home, but based on since they've scored, it looks like it's going to be a long last 10 minutes or so for Hibs.
There's a player down, I think it's Chabraya, is it? Inside Hibs penalty area, just getting a bit of treatment at the moment, but all of a sudden Lee Johnson will be a slightly worried man down there.
I spoke about Ryan McGowan maybe not being able, I know he's not particularly natural to the central midfield area, and he was kind of outnumbered in there at times, but for me, I know he's made a few mistakes. Witherspoon's knowledge of where to be and how to receive the ball has really helped St Johnstone get up the pitch.
St Johnstone have the throw in. They might have had a goal there for some desperate defending by Hibernian. Throw in down near the corner flag on their right hand side to be taken by McGowan. Chabraya looking to get back on the field of play. Back it goes to Gordon, helps it into the penalty area. It's away by Hanlon, only as far as James Brown. Out to May on the left-hand side, back in field now for Wotherspoon. Wotherspoon, 25 yards from goal, feigns to shoot, then plays the pass into Hallberg. He goes out to the left to Brown, back with Hallberg once more, lines up the shot, then feigns back to the left-hand side away from Ewan. Brown once more picks up Wotherspoon, edge of the penalty area, left-hand side, just leaves it to Hallberg once more. St Johnstone looking to try and create a golden opening. Try to play the pass to Murphy, it comes instead to Gordon inside the penalty area. He goes down, it's lashed away by Bashiri, and Hibs fans felt that Gordon was going down looking for the either free kick or penalty there right at the edge of the box.
How many chances does St Johnstone need when they've got all their big guys in the box to stick one in? I mean a good 5 or 6 opportunities there, and they're passing it around. Sling it in the box.
They have it once more, but it's at the back now. Wotherspoon out to Brown, and now Hallberg. Brown once more, left-hand side, back for Considine. 9 minutes left of the 90. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 1. Hibs down to 10 men after a second yellow card shown on 70 minutes to Kyle McGuinness.
St Johnstone are well and truly in the ascendancy here, spreading it side to side. Good play from Wotherspoon there.
Here's McGowan, right hand side near the goal line, tries to take on Chabraya, lays it back now for McLennan. McLennan sweeps it into the penalty. Stevie May, goal! Stevie May with a fabulous header past David Marshall in at the near post, and St Johnstone have turned this one around. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 2.
It's good play from St Johnstone. They got a bit of intensity, a bit of pace into the attack. David Witherspoon in the middle of the park, one side straight out the other. Ryan McGowan getting down the line, ball comes back, McLennan ball in. I mean, straightforward, simple football from St Johnstone, but very effective. Stevie May at the back post, determined, attacks it, gets above the defender, into the corner, and David Marshall's got no chance. Hibs have only got themselves to blame that they're not walking away with 3 points here, and they're now staring at a defeat.
Yeah, Wotherspoon instrumental again, receives the ball. Michael touched on it as it happened live. Great ball out to the other side. Ball in the box was brilliant, and we've seen 3 top drawer headers tonight, I must say. Really, really good goals. But Hibs are really up against it now, and you would not have thought that 10-15 minutes ago.
Check on that one was done pretty quickly. Goal stands and St Johnstone leads, and Brian McLaughlin can tell us about a couple of Hibs changes that are coming.
Yeah, I can't tell you who's coming off, Al, but coming on will be Harry McCurdy and Jair Tavares. Immediately that ball ended up in the back of the net, Lee Johnson turned to the bench and told them to get ready. They're coming on for the last 8-9 minutes or so.
My goodness, well, I didn't really see this coming when Hibs went in front. They were the dominant side, but the sending off is really...
And this is an important point, Al, and I know that it's a completely justified second yellow card, but that strikes at the heart of my debate here, that red card, now you're shaking your head and laughing about it, it's the right call, but if that wasn't, we'd still be in the situation where the player's sent off, and it's had a huge impact on the game. It has completely shifted the momentum, and St Johnstone, credit to them, they've capitalised, and they're now winning the game 2-1.
Yeah, point taken. Hibs play it all the way back to David Marshall. Still the 2 substitutes wait to come on. Hibs at risk of losing 3 in a row for the first time since October, November last season, and that was the beginning of the end for Jack Ross. A run that went on to become 5, bookended as it happens by wins over St Johnstone, and then 2 more defeats and a draw after that. Led to Jack Ross getting the sack. But they have still 6 minutes plus added on time to at least salvage a point from this one, and I guess with being down to 10 men they would probably take that right now, as Tavares and McCurdy prepare to come on. Off will come Chris Cadden. Tavares comes on to replace him, and it's Chabraya off for McCurdy. They have to go for broke now, Lee Johnson and Hibs, with as I say 5.5 minutes of the 90 remaining, and all of a sudden St Johnstone in no great hurry to take throw-ins or whatever throw-in they have just now on the halfway line. Fourth official telling Ryan McGowan to get on with it. Bashiri gets it clear before Clark can latch onto it. Considine wins the header down for May. Hibs fans aren't happy now. Wotherspoon knocks it out to Murphy, just couldn't quite kill it first time, out to the left hand side. Plays it into the penalty area, looking for McLennan, just comes off the top of his head and it'll drift behind for a Hibs goal kick. Hibs 1, St Johnstone 2, 5 to play. 20,010 inside Easter Road today, incidentally.
I think this is just another example from St Johnstone that it's a side of greater substance. Even when they were 1-0 down and they were second best, I didn't see any real panicking from St Johnstone. You know, and you think back to the season where they won the cup double. They're a side that were on the back foot a lot of it. They revelled in it, and they're nowhere near that level just now. But there wasn't a nervousness in the side. They're away from home. 20,000 fans, 1-0 down. They just kept themselves in the game.
Conor McLennan's down here, so is Ryan McGowan. He was fouled actually by Ellie Ewan. That's why the free kick has been awarded to St Johnstone. Both players now back up without requiring any treatment. So free kick to St Johnstone, just a few yards inside their own half, just under 4 minutes to play, and St Johnstone lead by 2-1. Nicky Clark and then Stevie May with his fourth goal of the season. He has put St Johnstone in front as Gordon takes the free kick, launches it diagonally long, looking for Murphy. He won't get onto that. Porteous just ducks and lets it go over his head, out for a throw-in, which he takes quickly up to Ewan. On for McCurdy. McCurdy, fresh legs over the halfway line. He comes, taken down in the challenge by Brown. Referee allows play to continue. Brown stayed down actually after making the tackle. St Johnstone trying to come forward. Stevie May goes down under Bashiri's challenge, and again play continues. Hibs come forward. Here's Tavares, he's in behind. Tavares for the equaliser. Down goes Boyle. Big shout for a penalty. The assistant's got his flag up on the far side, and it will be offside in the end as Boyle went down. Big claims for a penalty as Tavares went round Matthews.
I think Kevin Clancy pointed to the spot there to begin with.
Did he?
Just when the linesman's flag went up, I think he pointed to the spot. First of all,
Tavares did look offside, to be fair, when the ball was played. I assume that's who was offside. So that happens clearly. Obviously, why the decision was given before the penalty shout.
Well, that's
what happens here then, Al? An offside's given. There's an instant that looks like it could have been a penalty.
The flag didn't go up until after the ball was dead, did it? So
yeah, but
that's the correct thing for the assistant to do, isn't it? He waits until play is dead.
Yeah.
He thinks there's an offside in the lead up to it, so he then raises his flag.
My point is, I'm going to say,
yeah,
if the offside is incorrect and there was a penalty that should have been given, what happens? Are they going to look at that?
Yeah.
So they'll be looking to see, is the offside the right decision? And then
no, they'll be looking to see if the penalty or the non-award of the penalty is the right decision. Or if you're saying Kevin Clancy did point to the spot, then they'll be looking to check if
that's why.
My point is, it's offside is what's been given, correct?
Yes, but that's why they played on. So if last week he would have put his flag up straight away.
Yeah. What I'm asking you is,
they're not checking the offside. They're checking if there is a penalty incident. In fact, I don't think they actually are, because there's nothing come up.
They're not going to check the penalty when an offside's given. My point is, if the offside is incorrect, then you have a potential penalty.
Well, no. What?
Yes, that's how it would work. From the initial attack, Stevie May gets dispossessed in the halfway line. It's played forward. If it's offside, that's what's been given. If that is incorrect, they would then look at the penalty incident, and if it's a penalty, it would be awarded. So the offside is obviously correct.
Yeah, that's correct, Roddy.
So the offside will be checked, is my point.
Yes.
Good.
That's why they let the phase of play continue to an end.
Exactly. And the flag was correct in the end, and the free kick is.
No, I get all that in terms of allowing the game to play out so that there's an end of it. Totally understand all that. My point was just purely offsides given, which stopped the penalty decision even having to be made.
Yeah, that's the first thing we'd have checked, the offside, and if that was incorrect, if it was a penalty, then it would have been given.
Glad we've cleared that up. I think we have. Actually, ultimately, I'm not even sure if it was checked because nothing came up on the big screens and there was nothing communicated to the crowd.
Because he was a good 2 yards offside, I think that's why.
Yeah, so if it's a clear offside, that's the thing. But they're told if it's a clear offside, you put your flag up straight away. You don't let play develop. It's a throw-in for Hibs. Into the penalty area it comes as they look for a late equaliser. Shot comes in from Martin Boyle. 3 minutes have added on time. We're into that already. I think Leanne's had a view of all that was going on there. We'll get a quick word from her just in a minute. There's a free kick gone St Johnstone's way, a yellow card from Harry McCurdy. Leanne, can you just enlighten us?
Yeah, I can, Al. Just for clarity, it was looked at. It was confirmed that it was offside initially. And Rory's spot on. If it had been onside, the penalty decision would have been looked at. Kevin Clancy did point to the spot, as Michael had alluded to. Therefore, had they looked at it and deemed it to be a penalty, that would have been awarded, but it was in fact offside.
And to clear up your point, Al, in terms of the being clearly offside, it was that close to the goals that it's it makes sense to let the play run. If it's on the halfway line, it's slightly different.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. You're right that he did point to the spot. So ultimately, it didn't come to that as it was so far offside. But that would have been an interesting one. As Hibs still search for an equaliser. But St Johnstone have possession deep in Hibs territory. They try to run down the clock, and it's Nicky Clark right down at the corner flag. Tavares knocks it out of play. And the Hibs fans are flocking out the exits here as they watch their side slip to defeat when they had the 3 points certainly within their grasp. They were in control of the game at 1-0 up. Back it goes to David Marshall. He tries to play it out to Bashiri. Bashiri slips. It's Jamie Murphy. Murphy, he slips himself. Gets it eventually back into Stevie May. Stevie May gives it back to Jamie Murphy and points to the corner flag. Says, just get yourself down there. Don't bother trying to get it back into the penalty area. May once more. Slips it through again. Looking for Murphy. It's just going to go out of play though down at the corner flag. Hibs have got a minute of injury time left to try and salvage something from this game. Dramatic last 20 minutes with a red card, a couple of St Johnstone goals, penalty claim for Hibernian. All sorts going on. Ultimately, it looks like Callum Davidson's men are going to win for the first time in 4, bringing an end to a 3-game losing run. Marshall launches the goal kick over the halfway line. Flicked on by Hanlon. McCurdy out to Tavares. There's a one last chance here for Hibernian. Tavares back in field to Campbell, and Tavares once more. The angle of the box on the left hand side, needs to get it into the box, comes off McCurdy's arm, it seemed to me, comes out of the box anyway. Stevie May though tries to clear it upfield, comes off Bashiri. St Johnstone have possession once more, just lashed forward by McGowan, who'll be enjoying this, the former Hearts man. There's the final whistle. The boos ring round Easter Road as St Johnstone come from a goal behind to turn it right round and leave Easter Road with the 3 points. But the pivotal moment was certainly the red card shown to Kyle McGuinness for a second yellow with 20 minutes to play, with Hibs 1 goal to the good, having gone in front through Mikola Kuharevich in the first half. A fabulous header from him to give his side the half-time advantage. But that was wiped out after that red card, as first of all Nicky Clark from a corner from the left-hand side directed the header past David Marshall for the equaliser, and then less than 10 minutes later Conor McLennan swept across into the penalty area, and there was Stevie May to rise for his 4th goal of the season and what proved to be the winner at Easter Road. The first ever game in Scottish domestic football to be played with VAR. There was a big moment towards the end that was potentially contentious as Martin Boyle went down and Kevin Clancy pointed to the spot, but the offside flag also went up and the offside was the correct decision, and so no penalty was awarded. So VAR seemed to work pretty smoothly, it seemed to me, in the opening 90 minutes of its time in Scottish football. But as far as Hibernian are concerned, it's 3 points dropped again. St Johnstone go to applaud their travelling fans. The Hibs players troop off to boos. It's finished at Easter Road. Hibernian 1, St Johnstone 2.
On digital